What's up, everybody? Welcome to Beyond the Training, episode 3. We made it through the intro music, which I think is a little too light for us. We got to get something a little bit more hip hop in there versus this.
Well, maybe like as the training goes, once you get to like the different phases, once you hit around week 10, yeah, you'll need something real some real hype music or something like that. But like right now it's like we're still in the fun part of the
We're
training.
still in the
So,
sleepy phase.
yeah, the lighthearted part. I can get down with this music for sure.
How are you doing, dude?
I'm hanging in there. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. We got back from Philly and New York that we were there for 2 weeks, so there was no running. But I remember looking at Garmin, and one of the weeks that we had been out there, we walked like 35 miles. So I was like, okay, maybe I didn't run and I didn't get some speed work in or whatever, but my goodness, 35 miles of walking is a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And the time on your feet is really important too. I know I had kind of discussed that last week, and I was having a conversation with there's a dude in the neighborhood who catches up to me sometimes when I'm out running, and he was kind of asking me what my plan is for this training block. And really that is what I want to prioritize, is time on my feet. So it all counts at the end of the day. If you're walking 35 miles, that's still you're conditioning yourself right there.
Yeah, 100%. And Lori and I had talked about this, and it's sort of like we all talk about zone 1, zone 2 training, but the vast majority of us don't get into zone 1 and zone 2 training.
No. Well, and the thing is too, and I'm just as guilty as everyone else. So don't take this as me insulting anyone. If you're just going by your watch, you're really it's kind of a shot in the dark in terms of, actual heart rate. Even if you have, a more accurate, like a Holter monitor or something like that, if you haven't had your zones calibrated, you're still kind of guessing. So
Did you just call it a halter monitor? Like halter top?
It's a Holter monitor, I thought.
I have never heard that before.
Really? Oh, I thought that's what they were called.
You would just call them chest straps.
Well, chest strap, either way.
I like the idea, halter.
Yeah.
We're going to have to ask our research team, that's Lori, where the word halter came from. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, now I'm curious. Is it like a halter? I saw there's a YouTuber that's completely unrelated to fitness who was making fun of that. He kind of reminds me of Salt Bay. He keeps resetting his 15 minutes. Ashton something or another. That like kind of jacked Miami dude that had the weird like rubbing the banana peels on his face and sticking his head.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, he was wearing one of those like little weighted vests.
Yeah.
She called it his weighted halter top. I thought that was perfect.
That's fantastic. So for me, I guess I'm about a month and a little bit of this training. I know when you started, which would have been at the very end of December, you said you were going to be on a 12-week cycle. So yeah, I've been about a month into this training. How do you feel? Like, not in terms of like physically, but really more mentally, how do you feel where you're at? Because you were coming off a marathon, taking a few weeks off, you got the holidays, and like, has it been difficult to get back into it?
It has, to be honest with you. It's not, I don't think it's that uncommon. You have a little bit of downtime and you start getting back into it and your legs aren't feeling quite as, springy as normal. You're just not feeling as strong, as powerful, whatever. It takes you a second to kind of get back into it. So, I've certainly been sitting here wondering, did I take too much time off? Did I not take enough time off? What's going on, whatever. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I have to step back and say, no, we've been here before. Give it a little time and you'll be right back to where you were. And that's kind of where I've been these past couple of days, just sort of. I did have one run where I did throw in a bit of tempo work in the middle. And I was happy enough with the results. It wasn't, quite where I feel I should be. But again, I'd taken, almost a week off from running. And then when I did get back into it, it was very, very kind of light and limited. But, overall, I'm feeling pretty good. It's one of those things where it's like you can sit there and stress yourself out going over, especially, and this is in no way a knock. In fact, this is me saying it's a good thing, but going over all the data with like Alethea or something like that, which I just love. And that's kind of something that I look forward to whenever I wear it, is kind of looking at the numbers and seeing what I've actually been improving, things like that. which I guess, to kind of loop back around to your initial question, I guess that is kind of something that you can use to kind of snap out of that whatever overthinking cycle where it is like, oh, did I take too much time off? Whatever this. It's like, no, you have data in front of you showing that you're progressing the way you're supposed to. So you are fine in spite of what the voices in your head are telling you.
It's wild. So I wore the device last Sunday for the first time outside. I had been using it on the treadmill. And so I was really interested in what I would see from an outdoor run on the road versus on the treadmill. And the score was up again. So I think it was like 79 on the Alethea score. And I was super pumped about it. And then I ran yesterday. And I tell you, dude, I ran 3 miles. I participated in the Strava challenge we have going on for January. I ran my
Nice.
5K. And wildly enough, I was like, man, that felt great. Like my hip didn't bother me. I was so focused on the form. And I don't know what the pace was, like 9:50 or 9:40. So super easy, just get the run in. And then when Alethea showed up on the score, it was like 46. And I was like, what the fuck?
Well, okay, but you make an interesting point here, and do you find that when you do like say on the treadmill or something like that, when you're kind of giving it a bit more effort, your score improves, right? And obviously effort is something that's factored into it, but I've noticed that, what we call our zone 2 runs, when I do those where it's, just kind of me, kind of trotting around the neighborhood on cruise control, my score is never as good as I feel like it should be.
But that's the thing. Like I felt great yesterday. I wasn't breathing heavy. I was so focused on my form, where my hands were, where my footfall was. I use the Assault treadmill here, so I'm not on a regular conveyor belt treadmill, and so it's all it moves based on you powering the treadmill. And
Sure,
so I
yeah.
felt like my gait was great and everything else. I was like, I got off the treadmill. I was like, man, that was a great run. Like I was pumped.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Alethea's like 46, 46, 46. And I was like, fuck you, Alethea. And I just hit the app. Next.
I wonder if it's like a different criteria for the road or something. See,
It
now I
has
need
to be.
to next time I do the treadmill, I'm gonna have to really pay attention to that.
It has to be a
Which
different way it monitors, because again, like treadmills are confining, right? Like
yes, yeah,
you really cannot move, but you can only move but so much, I should say.
yeah,
Which is why I started using the Assault treadmill, because it's a more natural run to it. And so I was enjoying myself while I was running. And so I'm going to take it for what it's worth. It felt great. I felt
yeah.
good. My RPE was in that 5-6 range, so I wasn't like overexerting myself. And when it's all said and done, RPE is really what it comes down to when you're out there racing.
Absolutely.
Which is one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because this is something that I've been ping-ponging in my brain since our last episode 2 weeks ago, is expectations for the event, right? Like I just posted yesterday my blog post on runtrimag.com about all of the noise that I'm dealing with in this training block and setting goals and everything. And there's a large part of me that is like already saying to myself, but if you don't get it, it's okay. Meaning the 3:45.
Yeah.
And that's 100% accurate. There's 2 other opportunities to get there. But then I get into the worry, like if I don't hit it in the first one, what happens in the second one? And then if you don't hit it in the second one, what happens in the third one? Like my brain is just ping-ponging all over the place right now.
Oh no, I get that completely. And I kind of look at it the same way. I don't think for me where I'm at, I don't think 3:45 is realistic for Oakland. I'm not going to completely discount it, but just again on kind of a truncated training block coming off of 4 hours in Phoenix, it's not undoable. It's, put it this way, I can hold a 3:45 pace for, well over 20 miles. It's that last little bit, which everyone will tell you is the hardest part of the marathon. Really, mile 22, which gets me every time, is that's sort of where, the real game begins, at least for me. I don't mean to, discredit anyone else's effort if they struggle earlier. So, it's one of those things where it's like, have that voice in my head that it's like, okay, yes, I am capable of doing this, but I'm not going to hold myself to such a rigid standard because we are going to have 3 opportunities. Doesn't have to be this one. I'm thinking, for me anyway, my personal goal is just really, I'd like to PR, which anything under 357 will get me there. Um, if I PR 355, 350, somewhere in there, then 345 is within
Yeah.
reach. Because really, it's not, again, not to make it sound like it's easy, but reducing your marathon time by 5 minutes when you're a 4-hour marathoner is, sometimes it really just comes down to luck. Sometimes it just comes down to road conditions that
Yeah.
day versus anything else. So it's not, so unreasonable. When you start talking in terms of 15 minutes, it's like, well, that's effort. Um, so I guess that's my very, very long-winded way of saying I'm not aiming for 345 just in terms of expectations this time around. I mean, certainly that's still the goal. Um, but at the same time, I do want to kind of get out ahead of giving myself some grace here, and now, of course, if things just go totally haywire and it's just a bad time, at least by my standards, which again, I don't mean to shit on anybody else who, if you're a 5, 6, 7 hour marathoner, guess what, you're still a marathoner at the end of the day, and your efforts should be commended. And I'm not saying, oh, it's good enough for you and not good enough for me. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying I have a certain number in my head that, if things were to go really, really wrong and I was just way off of that number, I would have to kind of step back and evaluate my plans moving forward for the future events.
And that's the thing, right? Like I think about is this in terms of a baseball season, right? So baseball players get into slumps. They don't have a lot of time to turn around and assess and get away from and everything else. And we kind of don't have that either,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
like we're gonna run a marathon in March, we're gonna run one in May, and then we're gonna run one in July. Um, and so there's not a lot of time to address the scenarios in between the marathons. And so like all of this stuff is mental, right?
It is.
And so how do we cope with the mental aspect of, for argument's sake, if you run a 346, 347, 348 at Oakland, the mental aspect in my mind becomes easier. To me, it's like, I fucking got this. Right? I
Absolutely.
got this for the next one.
Absolutely.
If you run a 358, the mental aspect might be, holy shit, I am 13 minutes off.
Yeah.
And so what do I need to do? And I don't have an answer to this, not today anyway. But how do we lessen that pressure, right? And here I'm going to give you this example. When I was getting my undergraduate degree at SUNY Oswego, I took an economics course that I should have dropped on day one just based on the title alone, which was like the macroeconomics of society programs or some shit like that. So we're talking about wealth.
Okay.
Like, just from the title alone, I should have been like, I'm out. But anyway, we get to the class and the professor, he's like, you have 3 tests and they're essays. And he's like, if you don't take the first one, the second 2 count for 50% of your grade. If you don't take the first 2, everything rides on the last one. Right? So it's 33, 33, 33, 50, 50, or 100.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a frat. I'm not paying attention to class. Like all of this shit anyway is way up here. He's drawing axes and all kinds of stuff. By the way, folks, I do have a master's degree with a concentration in economics. So I know what I'm talking about. And as he was going through the class, I was like, this man may as well be speaking Hindi with some Spanish and Chinese mixed in. Like none of this stuff makes sense. So I skipped the first test.
Yeah.
Then because I'm like, I'm not going to class, I skipped the second test. And so I roll into the third test and I sit down, and the first question I was like, yeah, nah. So I just wrote in the booklet. I was like, do yourself a favor, focus on the students who gave a shit this term. And if you can give them any points, please do. Don't bother grading this pamphlet. So I closed it and I walked out in like 5 minutes because none of it made sense. I couldn't bullshit my way through the answers.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's how I envision this, right? If you don't hit it in Oakland and you don't hit it in Pittsburgh. When you get to San Francisco, for me, am I throwing the idea of 345 out the window because I'm going to help you get to 4 hours is the focus? Because that's where we all started, right? Like these are all the things that are ping ponging in my head. And how is training adapting to all of that?
No, no, and I totally smell what you're stepping in there. And it's interesting with the baseball analogy, because it is one of those things where it's like, uh, do you go analytics or do you play the hot hand? You know what I'm saying? Are we? I'm of course like drawing a blank here. Who was was it shit? Who was the Rays manager when they pulled Snell in the World Series because the analytics told them to do that? And that ended up being a mistake. There are other times where it's like you got to follow the numbers. I mean, literally, that's how they got to the World Series, was
Right.
following the numbers. So it works and it doesn't sometimes. And I in a way, I think it's probably a good thing that you're thinking that far in the future, because it's like I'm still just so singularly focused right now on, again, not need redemption from the last one, whatever, this and that, but it's I was sitting and thinking about it the other day, getting ready to go out for my run, where for the majority of Phoenix, I thought, not only did I have a PR in the bag, I was going at about a 345 pace. So it's like, damn, how did I fumble that so much? And it's like, here's what we're going to do to make sure that doesn't happen again. So, there is a certain, I don't want to say immediacy, because that obviously contradicts everything I just said, but there is a certain, okay, let's focus on the here and now, and then we'll worry about tomorrow problems tomorrow with regards to, the other two marathons we're running here, which, being realistic, and, I'm certainly not saying that I couldn't, but, obviously you're way more capable of hitting a 345 in SF than I am. So if it comes down to it, and it's, say you're, at like 346, 347 in, either Oakland or Pittsburgh, and like it's that close, bro, go for it. SF isn't going anywhere if I don't get under 4 this time around. I'm not going to be the anchor that weighs anybody else down, put it that way. But it's one of those things where I think you can also sort of project out into the future a bit too much, and then you start overthinking things that not only haven't happened yet, but like all the other things leading up to it. It's like, how do you know that you won't just get out there in Oakland and just absolutely slay it? So
That's it, right? Like you
yeah,
don't know. And I, as you were talking, I was just kept coming back to this idea of fun. Like you just have to have fucking fun with this stuff. And
absolutely.
don't be afraid to embarrass yourself. Don't be afraid to, make light of the situation and have fun with it all. Because when it's all said and done, this is a hobby.
Yeah,
We take it seriously. We train, we work out, we eat, we do all of the things. But when it's all said and done, it's a fucking hobby. And if you don't get it, you don't get it. Nobody that we know that's in the clubhouse or in the RTB community is going to be like, well, you suck, I'm out because you didn't do this, right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And that is kind of the thing, it's we've certainly talked about, not just like the gatekeepers in the space, whatever, this and that, but it's like we don't really associate with that element that's going to be
Yeah.
like, oh my God, you suck, you didn't hit your 345 when you said you were gonna. At the same time, I know that you see it kind of the way I see it, where it's like, okay, if I didn't think I could do it, I wouldn't have said it. So
Right.
because I put that intention out there, I've got to at least try, but
It's funny. I just thought about this. So when I was racing 100 milers, I had put a goal in to break 19 hours, and it was public. I let everybody, it was known. Like I want to do this because I think the very first the second 100 miler I did, which was at Rocky Raccoon, I broke 20 hours. And it's funny because I had said to somebody at a club run, I was like, I'd like to break 24 hours. Like that was the goal.
yeah.
And he was like, what? And he was being a sarcastic wise ass. Well, if you want to break 24 hours, why don't you just break 20 hours? I was like, fucking bet.
Oh,
And
I do the same thing.
yeah,
Yes.
and I did, right? And so then I was like, well, I want to break 19 hours. And I got as close as 1912-ish. But nobody's ever been like, yeah, but you didn't break 19 hours, right? So
Yeah. Exactly. And that's kind of the way I look at it, and you do have to find that sort of balance. Sorry, Oliver just seems to know when I'm talking, what's in or out. But you do have to kind of find that balance where it's like, I'm not saying don't challenge yourself. I think that is kind of at the heart of why any of us are doing this, because fuck it, we're not getting paid for this shit.
Right.
It's like you said, this is a hobby, this is fun. But there is that mental component of I want to challenge myself. At the same time, you do have to kind of keep the perspective of, say 19 hours for a 100 miler, say 3:45 for a marathon, say sub 4 in San Francisco for me. It's like, I do it. Great. Then what?
Then
It's
what?
literally just a personal goal. It's all it is. Like you're
What? So
nobody's gonna like.
that's a
Oh,
great question. Like, why do we put so much emphasis on the negative side? What if I don't hit it? That we often forget about the positive side. Well, what if you do? And the reality is the answer is the same. Nothing fucking changes.
absolutely nothing. Exactly. Exactly. And that is kind of the again, just kind of the perspective that I have to keep reminding myself of is it's like these goals are great, but ultimately at the end of the day, again, we're not getting paid. Nothing really rides on this other than being able to say we did it.
Yeah.
So not to say that that isn't something, but try and go down to the grocery store and buy groceries with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at it that way.
The the one thing I wanted to make sure I brought up in this conversation was last time we talked about nutrition and how you mentioned that the way you're training with your nutrition is different than the way you were racing. So in the last couple of weeks, have you addressed that? Have you thought about that?
A little bit. So, usually, and it's anyone who follows me on IG, it's almost kind of a running joke that like my standard distance is a 10 miler every day. Um,
I see what you did there, running joke.
see, I didn't, I just walked right into that one backwards. No, but I did this past, so I'll usually do 4 days on, 1 day off. So this past set of 4 days, I made it a point to, rather than, stop for water at, my kind of prescribed stops, anytime I ran past the house, just stop and get a little bit of water. We're not leaving water bottles anywhere, just a little bit so that you're used to, not the same kind of hydration. Now, again, I don't really fuel on a 10 miler, which shame on me. You don't follow
Yes.
my example
Shame
for a
on
lot of
you.
things.
Get some calories.
Well, what I'll do is I'll eat, kind of a big breakfast before. Um, but yeah, that's gonna have to be the other thing is just kind of integrating fueling during the run as well. But just sort of like the time on feet, it's like I've got pace, I've got distance. Those I know I'm more than capable of. Like I don't mean to do like the influencer thing again. This is a terrible idea for anyone. I don't care how trained you are, but there are those of us, and I include myself in this, and I'm sure you're the same way, that it's like if I had to get up and run a marathon tomorrow, I could. Would it be my best? Absolutely not,
It would
but
be
I could
awful.
do it. Yeah. So it's like I have the actual vehicle for completing a marathon already. But it's like, how do we make these minor adjustments in our plan uh, to the point that they become second nature, that I can really optimize this whole thing? So, that's sort of where I'm looking at it now with this training block. And again, like with the time on feet and the fueling and all of that, these are sort of, I guess, forgotten details that, I don't know that everybody's forgotten, but I certainly have, that, I want to kind of come back around to and make sure that I'm giving them the respect that they deserve.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the key right there. And dude, I have no idea how you make it through 10-mile runs without eating. This Sunday, I had 630 calories in an hour and a half, basically, which
Yeah.
would put me right around 400 calories an hour. And like I felt good. I felt a little dehydrated after I was done and Lori and I were walking to go get coffee and nachos. And I was like, I feel a little dehydrated, but I drank 3 bottles in that hour and a half. Now, when I looked at the weather report after we were done, it was 95% humidity. So, I clearly need to drink more in that moment. And I don't know, have you looked? What's the typical weather like in Oakland at the end of March?
I haven't, but just kind of my own educated
Yeah,
guess
you're
from,
from the area.
it's It's definitely not going to be warm by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it'll be like brutal, but we'll probably be looking at, I would say, depending on what time, if it starts at the same time as like SF, which I think is like 5 in the morning, we'll probably be looking at, in the 50s to start, and then, mid to high 60s by the end.
That might give me an advantage because right now, running along the beach, we're probably in the mid 60s with, like I said, 90 to 95% humidity. So if I can get through some of those runs within a relatively decent clip, then starting out at 50 to 55, which are ideal running temps with less humidity, should make that at least the first half of the marathon somewhat um, enjoyable, shall we say, from a weather perspective.
Absolutely. And I keep forgetting, and I need to, that's going to be my homework. I'm actually going to write myself a note right now. I keep forgetting to check the elevation map for this course, because I think that's going to be, that's going to be a huge factor just in determining really pacing strategy, everything. Obviously the famous one, and I've never ran, don't think I ever will. Not saying I don't have any interest in it, but it's that's in a different league. Of course, Boston, you've got, the big hill at the very end
Yeah.
that, a lot of people say messes them up. So, if that's the case, I know the bridge is going to probably be, your biggest elevation jump on and off of that thing.
In Oakland?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, beyond that, I'm trying to think, especially because I believe it ends downtown. So there's some hills. I don't think there's anything too brutal, but that's also going to have to kind of factor into the whole thing. Elevation, weather conditions, all of that. So, again, going back to, these are just kind of they're not even little details, but they're details that are often overlooked that,
Yeah.
I certainly want to factor more into my training plan this time around.
Is it wrong for me to want like 8,000 feet of elevation at Oakland so we could walk a lot? Well, I couldn't break 345 because look, we had 8,000 feet of elevation. What'd you
Right.
expect?
Hey.
I'd have to get my trekking poles out, get my Lecky trekking poles out in the middle of the streets.
Seriously.
That would be wild, dude. It'll be a fun time. I'm pretty excited about getting out there. I just met a gentleman by the name of Elliot, and he's on our Enduring Minds podcast, which will come out on the 21st, and he lives in Oakland.
Nice.
So yeah, so we'll get connected with him and meet up with him out there. I'm going to be talking to Sabrina a lot tomorrow, I think, to connect with her. And I know she's got a running club and see about getting people together for a run. And then I'll also reach out to Celia at Goo Energy because they're right there in the Bay
They're
Area.
in Berkeley, yeah.
Yeah. And see what we can do.
And that's huge. That's the whole other component right there is, marathon aside, and we're putting in the work there, but, just kind of bringing everybody together like that.
Yeah.
And again, just to go back to the run club tour, this is, we were texting about it earlier. Anybody who's listening right now, if you're in the area, even if you don't feel up to running the marathon, either do a shorter distance or you can skip it all together, but make sure you come hang out with us.
Seriously.
We interact so much, online. Let's make sure that we're making those IRL connections too, because that is essentially, this is Run Try Bike, but you out there in TV land, you're also Run Try Bike. You know what I'm saying? You're just as much a part of this. So make sure that you're setting aside that time to come participate with us.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, that goes back to the whole idea of having fun with these things. And that's you just sort of put me at ease, right? So the people that come out who potentially are running or not running, when we cross the finish line and we're all chit-chatting and bullshitting with each other, right? That's going to be the memory. It's not going to be well, I finished this marathon in X time, right? The only marathon that I remember my time at is the Vegas marathon that I ran. And I don't even remember the year. So this will fall into that alignment at some point where it's like, yeah, you ran X, Y, and Z at Oakland Marathon, and then the time will fade away. And the focus will be, well, we got to hang out with Sabrina and Elliot and Des and whomever else is in the area that we get to hang out with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you make a great point there too, and I think this kind of, we can circle back around to, talking about the 345, setting goals for yourself, whatever this and that. Do you know, can you name off the top of your head all of your PRs at every distance?
Marathon 331, 250 miler, about 28 hours. Because I've only done one. And the 100 miler is 1911. But half marathon, no clue. 15K, no clue. 10K, no clue. Not even the 5K. And we run those a lot. I have no idea.
The only reason I remember my 5K is one, because I was shocked that the time was correct. It was one of those like perfect conditions type days. And two, there was like absolutely no rounding. So it was a perfect 1945 on the dot. So
No
it's easy
shit.
to remember. But yeah.
Wow. That's wild, dude. First of all, congrats on breaking 20 hours, 20 minutes, excuse me. But damn, like to not have a 0.00 on the end or
Right.
0.01 on the end.
Yeah, like how
Wild.
does that even happen? I've never had that happen before, never had it happen since. But that's kind of my point beyond that is, you know, I can tell you details of just about every race I've run. Couldn't tell you the time of 99% of them.
Yeah.
So ultimately at the end of the day, no matter how you're feeling about your time when you cross that finish line, I'm not going to feel that way for very long. I can't even tell you my marathon PR. Again, you know, it's nothing super impressive, but it was under 4, which was something I was working towards for a while. 357 and some change, I don't know. It's just not something that left that much of an impact to me. I can tell you, you know, what this person said at, you know, maybe mile 18 when I was starting to feel a little worn out, that it's like, oh, that gave me a little bit of motivation. Somebody had mentioned they liked I had my California flag singlet. Somebody said they liked that, whatever. And it's like, this is the stuff you remember. You remember these interactions. You remember, honestly, you even remember when, you know, you're out there and it's just absolute suck city and you want to stop, but you didn't. You remember that. The
Here's
time
what
itself. Oh no, go on.
No, go ahead. Here's what's wild is as you were talking, I was like, okay, well, here are the things that I do remember. In 2014, I ran a 402 at Ironman Chattanooga. In 2015, I ran a 359. So I finally broke 4 hours at the Ironman marathon at Ironman Florida. And then 2016 at Ironman Louisville, I ran a 357. And so like I remember those three vividly because my goal during my Ironman days was to break 4 hours at the marathon. I figured if I can break 4 hours at the marathon after swimming 2.4 miles and cycling for 112 miles, that's a fucking accomplishment,
That's
right?
huge. Yeah.
And so those I remember, but I honestly don't remember outside of my marathon PR time any of the other standalone marathon times. Don't remember them at all.
Yeah.
I honestly can't even tell you the marathons I've ran. Like I know I ran Dallas one year and I ran San Antonio, which I think was my first. But outside of that, if I've run others, I don't remember them.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. It's sort of like if I asked you what's your bank balance right now, you know, it's like I can give you a
I can
vague
tell you it's not high
estimate.
enough.
It's not okay, you and me both. But that's the thing. It's like I can give you a vague estimate, but it's just not that important of a number to me. You know what I'm saying? Like and maybe that's kind of comparing apples to oranges, but still there are just so many numbers that we fixate on in the moment that a day, 2 days, a week, a month, however long down the road, they literally do not matter anymore.
Here's another thing that I often argue with myself with, and sometimes I get into it with people on the internet, is the idea of a PR. And we are often comparing times to each other. So, in other words, my PR in Vegas is 331. That was at night. It was a totally different set of conditions, everything else, right? If I run a 330 somewhere else, and that's my new PR, they're not comparable. You could
No.
say all day long, well, it's 26.2 miles. Sure, I got it. But the reality is, one was run at night. One might start at 5 a.m. One was run with, 60% humidity. One might be run with 30. Like the circumstances are never going to be exactly the same. And so I think we put a lot of emphasis on PRs, but maybe we need to put more emphasis on effort.
Absolutely.
Like, what is your PR effort really is the question we might want to start asking ourselves, right? Like I ran this event and I finished in 352, but I felt great the entire time. And so I that's my PR effort versus I ran 331. And this is the God's honest truth. I was trying to qualify for Boston that year in Vegas. and it was their first on the strip at night marathon that Rock and Roll was putting on. And it starts late at night. So everything is fucked up. Like you don't know when to eat and when you should sleep. Everything is just upside down. And we start running, and I was envisioning just bands and music all along the way, helping motivate me and inspire me throughout the race. Well, you end up in this factory setting immediately. The first half of the marathon is in like the back ass of Vegas. You're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And instead of bands, they had like boom boxes playing music. And so like there was this overwhelming disappointment right away.
Sure.
And I could tell within the first 3 to 4 miles that I wasn't gonna. I think I had to race at 3:15 that year, and I was like, there ain't no fucking way. I'm way off already, and I'm not gonna get faster as the miles progress. And around mile 22, like everything froze, Santino, to the point of tears. I was crying. I was in so much pain. I finished the event, right? And congratulations, you have a 3:31 PR. I was fucking miserable for 3.5 hours.
Exactly.
Miserable. When I ran at the Ironman Louisville race where I finished in 3:57, I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved running that course, and I had a good time running that course. So like maybe we need to adjust the conversation from what's your PR time to what's your PR effort.
No, and that's, you just, the light bulb went off when you said that for me, because I was thinking about it. I've never been able to articulate it the way you just did, but that's perfect. I know for me, I believe it actually was my PR. I would have to, gun to my head, I couldn't swear to it, but I would have to verify. I believe my PR half marathon, it was one of those where it's like, get out there. It feels easy the whole time. I literally had kind of tucked in with a pace group that I thought I was going to stay with. And at one point I realized, hey, I think I can break away from these guys. And I did. And at no point was I, feeling completely beat down or whatever, this and that. Now I've had others where, you get to, and, the half is different. The half, I think personally is my favorite distance. I think it's very fun because you usually don't get super worn down, but that's not to say those last couple of miles magically become easier.
I've got a story for you when you're done about the half.
Sure. Well, no, but that's what I'm saying is you have those races, and it doesn't even have to be a race, because I certainly have training runs. I remember where it's like, oh, this is just easy. Like you just, you feel almost invincible, you know what I'm saying? And that's a rare thing. It doesn't come along very often, but those are, at least to me, those are the best runs, regardless of what time you finished or, whatever this and that is. How did you feel while you were doing it? How did you feel afterwards? You get out there and you bang out whatever mileage and you're done and you feel like you could still take on the world. Yep. That's a major win.
Major win. So here's my half marathon story. I think, now that we're talking about this, I think my PR at the half marathon is like 1:36, somewhere in that.
That's scorching, dude.
And we had a friend of mine said, hey, we need to beat another friend's PR, when I think her PR was 1:31. And there was a half marathon coming up in 2 weeks, and being the fucking macho man, I was like, we can do it there. And he was like, yeah, we'll do it there for sure. So we had like 2 weeks of training, of speed work training, right? For this, to try to race a 1:31. We are full on in ultra mode, trail mode. Like I haven't run a road race in I don't know how many years. And now here I am thinking, slap on your shoes and you're going to race a 1:30.59, right? So we get out there, and in order to do this was in Frisco, Texas. I think it was called the Big Star Half Marathon or something like that.
Okay.
And so in order to do this, you got to be at the front of the race. You got to be at the start line. When they say go, you are going, because otherwise you're never going to do it. And so 5'6" dude who doesn't look like a runner next to 6'2" dude who's pencil thin, right? And all of these other pencil thin dudes and super strong looking ladies. And I was like, I am so out of my element here. Like, what are we doing? The gun goes off, and like the first mile, I think to run a 1:30, you have to run like 6:55 or something in that vicinity.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
The first mile, I look at my watch and it's like 6:57. The second mile was like 7 minutes. I think the third mile was like 6:58. And I look at my buddy, and I'm like, holy fuck, we're going to do this. So I'm thinking this is like what you just expressed, right? This is the day like the stars have aligned.
Yeah.
Well, after mile 3, dude, like all I see is him running away from me. And the effort is still there. I'm still at RPE 9.5, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
my RP is up there, but he's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And we make this turn, and the way the course is set up, like it's almost like a square. So you run for like 3 miles, you make a right turn, and then you run for like 7 miles straight. There's no turns, like so you can see everything in front of you, which is so disheartening.
That's so much rougher, isn't it?
It sucks. So you have the windy roads up and down, the rolling hills or whatever, and all of a sudden, like the 135 pace group passes me, and then the 140 pace group passes me, and then the 145 pace group passes me, and I'm at like mile 9, and his wife is there, and she's like, "How is it going?" And I'm like, "There are no more fucking wheels on this bus. There's no steering wheel. Like everything is shot to shit." And I look behind me, and now here's the 150 pace group, and I'm like, "This is 20 minutes off what I wanted to race, right? Like this isn't even close." So I just hunkered down, and I'm trying to stay ahead of the 155 pace group. And if I'm not mistaken, with like a half mile to go, they finally passed me. So I hung on for like 3.5, 4 miles. They finally passed me. I think I finished in 157. So like 30 minutes later than what expected. And here's the thing, and this is the reason why I tell you this story, is like, it sucked. It sucked so bad. But it was so far off the mark that telling the story now, I can laugh my ass off about it. So if we go out with the goal of running 3:45 and we run a 4:02, like we're just going to have fun with it. Like it is what it is.
Well, and that is the thing. It's, and again, we've talked about before, I believe I even mentioned it in the last episode. I have a shit ton of respect for the back of the Packers because they are.
I thought you were going to say I have to shit right now.
That's one of my biggest fears running a marathon, because it's like, okay, I'll stop and take a pee break or whatever, because that's 2 minutes. What if you really gotta go? And
Lori just chimed in with the caca walk, which was our morning cup of Jason today. I'm telling you right now, I will not shit my pants for any fucking reason.
No,
I'm not
I don't
doing
care
it.
I don't care if I am on a BQ pace.
Don't care.
No, because you know what? You're never living that down. I don't. There's no way you can justify. There was a perfectly good outhouse that I could have used, but I shit myself.
Actually, I did this at I ran the Miami half one year, and I did jump into the porta potty. I do remember that because I had to go, and this was very early on in my running journey, and the goal was to break 2 hours, and I still wound up breaking 2 hours at that event, even though I went to the bathroom. But yeah, like I'm going to use the bathroom. I am not using the bathroom.
There is not a race in the world that is worth me putting myself through that level of indignity. And I know that like it's like kind of a joke among the running community, but I'm sure there's been people who it's happened to.
Of course there is. But bro, like when you okay, here let's hypothetical this. Okay, you're at mile 20 of this marathon and you shit yourself. So now you're running 6 more miles. If you're running at an 8-minute pace, that's 48 minutes of shit running all over your leg and everything else, right?
Yes.
Congratulations, you crossed the finish line. Now what? You got shit all over you. Like it's not like they have remote showers standing right there for you. Like what are you gonna do?
That's the thing. You're gonna get your medal and your fucking little goodie bag and your banana and whatever else with shit running down your leg, standing around with everybody, your family or whoever is waiting for you. They want to hear all about it.
Your family's leaving you. I'm gonna tell you right now. If you're in my family and you finish the race and there's shit on your leg, you are not getting in my car.
Absolutely.
Goodbye. Like go figure it out. Because you're not hanging out with me anymore.
No way. Like that is like a huge fear of mine. But like, again, I swear to God, I don't care. I don't care if I'm, running a sub-3 pace. If it's that serious, I'm stopping and using the outhouse.
The only reason why you're running a sub-3 pace with the talent that we have is because we have overpressed the gas pedal, which is going to lead to this stomach issue, which then means you are not a sub-3 hour marathoner. So you might as well call it a day.
Exactly. No, very true. Very true. No, it is. It's a borderline irrational fear of mine, if I'm being completely honest.
I will tell you this story. It was the 2017 Ironman Chattanooga. The swim was canceled because it was just raging water, dude. I watched a uh, piece of wood float down the river in like 6 minutes. It was moving so
Oh
fast.
Jesus!
It was so fast. And so it was a truncated Ironman. We started with the bike, and I killed it on the bike, dude. Ironman Chattanooga is a sneaky, difficult course with rolling hills and stuff like that. And I finished with over a 20-mile-an-hour pace, and which means I essentially cooked myself because when I got on the run, like it was miserable. It got hot and humid in Chattanooga, and so I'm running and I'm trying to like get all of the liquids and everything that I had in me out so that I can start refueling again because my stomach was all fucked up. I get to, I think it's like mile 3 or 4, and I'm wearing a single tri kit. So like you have to take it off so that you can get into the porta potty to poop. You don't just, I didn't have
Oh,
two
sure,
kits.
sure.
I had a one,
Yeah.
which was a big fucking mistake. So anyway, nothing's happening at that first porta john. I get to the half marathon pace, and Santino, when I tell you this, I am not exaggerating one bit. I'm running up on this porta john, and there's only one there,
Oh
and I
no.
have to go so bad that in my mind, I am telling myself I am ripping whoever is in that porta john out. If there's anybody in there, they are getting thrown the fuck out because I'm not doing this. Fortunately enough, there was nobody in there, so I was able to go in and get out. But after that, like after going to the bathroom at that half marathon, like the second half of that marathon, the next 13.1 miles was so glorious. Like there
Oh,
was
I
no more
bet.
stress, there was no more
Yeah.
pressure, there was no more anxiety of where's the porta john. I was free to run. It was so awesome. So again, if we're in this predicament, go to the bathroom. It
Go to the
probably
bathroom.
frees you up to be able to actually continue on and set a PR.
No, absolutely. Every time, and again, I've never actually never had to stop and take a poop break during a race, but I certainly have had to take pee breaks before. And every time it's like, oh no, I can't afford to lose that, couple of minutes, whatever. But then you look down, you realize it's like I'm overthinking this so much, it's literally messing with my pace. Let's just stop, and then boom, immediately afterwards, just like you said, just that relief. If nothing else, it gives you that temporary psychological boost or something like that.
Now, if it's pee and I'm setting a record, I'm setting a PR or whatever, I could pee myself. I've done it at Ironman events. You just take your water bottle, you squeeze it on your legs, and you're fine.
Got a wetsuit anyway,
Yeah.
so
Well,
yeah.
no, not. I mean, on the run,
Oh,
I've
oh,
done it
oh,
too.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Um, maybe at a road race, maybe it's a little different because you're not in a tri kit that's just covered and stuck to you and everything else. I don't know. I have to rethink about this. I'll come back in 2 weeks with an answer.
I think okay, that's one that I think you could. There are workarounds, like you said, dump a water bottle on yourself or something like that. I don't think that would be quite as egregious. It still might be like, I need somebody to go find me some new pants before I
Yeah,
sit in the car. But
that I will accept. If you're a family member and you cross the finish line, you're like, hey, I just peed myself a little bit on the course. Be like,
yeah,
fine, here's a new pair of shorts. I can
yeah.
deal with that. But if you come to my car and you've got poop all over you, I'm
No,
sorry.
absolutely not. There's no PR that's worth it. That's the whole thing. Okay, going
Yes.
back to what I was saying before. You run whatever distance, you shit yourself, but you PR. I guarantee you're going to remember that you shit yourself more than that you PR'd.
Unless you have a great storytelling persona, that's exactly what you're going to remember. And I would venture to guess most people would be too embarrassed to tell the story of their PR. In addition
Right?
to, well, by the way, at mile 18, I just shit myself.
Yeah. It's gonna put a damper on it either
Yeah,
way. That's all I'm
that
saying.
story is gonna float like a lead balloon. People are gonna be like, "You
Yeah,
did what?"
right.
Here's a question I have for you. So this past run, this 10 miler I did on Sunday, I did have the H2O audio headphones in that I ran with, and so I was listening to music. Are you listening to music when you're racing these marathons?
Absolutely. No, the playlist is very important.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a big part of it. And really Not even joking. That is kind of part of the strategy when I'm putting together like a marathon playlist or whatever. It's like, okay, if I know I'm about 2 hours in at this point, I'm gonna need something to, kind of keep my energy levels up. So whether that's, something kind of angry, something kind of just, fast paced, whatever it is. But yeah, no, I definitely will kind of curate my playlists for a race depending upon where I think I'm gonna be at any given point.
So I'm gonna need some tips on this because I've never run with music during races, and so um, rate training with it now. It's enjoyable. Half the time, I don't hear the music anyway. I get lost in my own head and my own thoughts. So I'm not even hearing the music the vast majority of the time. But maybe it will help me. I have no idea.
I think it's one of those things that it's good to have in your back pocket. At least this has been my experience. Where yeah, there's times where it's like the music's playing and I'm kind of zoned out. I couldn't even really tell you what I was listening to. But then other times, yeah, if you just need that little whatever to dig deep, or if you're just tired, if it's just not your day. I've certainly had training runs before where it's like, okay, let me put something on, something a little upbeat, whatever this and that. And it's not definitely not going to make things any easier, but at the same time it's like, okay, I can kind of get out of my own head for a second. I'm not going to think about how my legs are bugging me right now. I'm not going to think about how much longer I have to go. I'm just going to sit and listen to the music. And it's 10 songs down the road, I'll be, however much, I'll be 30 minutes closer to being done, that sort of thing.
Yeah, let's get close to putting a bow on this because I'm getting hungry. And the reason why I know I'm getting hungry is I have music on the screen that I don't know that you can see, but it says chill hop, and I really just thought it said chili dog.
Oh man, chili dogs are. I haven't had lunch yet either. Now I'm thinking, where do I get a chili dog?
Chili dogs would hit hard right now with some raw onion and some shredded cheddar cheese.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
That would be banging right now, dude. I need some of that.
Yeah.
So let's wrap this up. What do the next 2 weeks, because we'll put the next episode out on the 22nd, because this one will come out tomorrow on the 8th. What do the next 2 weeks look like for you in terms of training?
So for me, it's going to be mostly the same. So
Yeah.
mostly easy runs. So of my four, probably for the next set, what I'm looking at is 3 easy runs with 1 speed work session in there. Then after that, that's when I'm going to start integrating longer runs. So I usually go in multiples of 2. I'm thinking I may try and do a little bit more this time just because my longest run of any training block is usually the 20 miler, but I want to get up to at least a 22 this time because that is where I've experienced, trouble before.
Yep.
So I just want to have that conditioning. So I'm probably going to, by the next time we talk, I'll have thrown in hopefully at least a 13, 14 miler, start building up to those, real long runs. I don't
Yep.
want to, really go crazy with it just right off the bat, but, just building a little bit on what I have. How
So
about you now? What do
you
you,
said you do 4 and 1. So your off day isn't always the same then.
no.
That's interesting.
And this is just kind of like a weird OCD thing of mine too. So if I end up having 2 off days within the same calendar week, one of them will be active recovery day, and then the other one is just kind of like a rest day.
Interesting. Yeah, for me, I think I'm going to start introducing doubles into the runs with running this business and my teaching. It's just hard to be like, for these 2 hours, I'm going to go run. Not because I can't make the time, but mentally, I'll be
Yeah.
like, oh shit, what's happening? I need to go address something.
Yeah.
So I think what I'll start doing is incorporating double runs days. So maybe 40 minutes in the morning and then 45 minutes in the evening to break them up. So I'm getting closer to 10 miles during the week. And then the next 2 weeks will probably be 12 and then 14 on the long run days as we make our way through January, and still putting in speed work. Like my evening run today, I'll do 4x800s to get the speed work in. And then instead of just calling it a day, maybe finish that up with just like 2 easy miles to just continue to build the mileage on the legs.
Now, how close to your taper before you start shutting down the speed work?
So the way I usually build my schedules, which are 16 weeks long, is the first third is short and fast type of running. And
Mhm.
then the middle third, you get less short and more medium. And then the last bit is all long runs in a sense.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
the speed work kind of tends to phase out maybe by week 8, week 9. And just then it just becomes the endurance work, like just consistently building that engine that can sustain 26.2 miles in this case, or in the past 100 milers kind of thing.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's kind of it's always kind of a shot in the dark for me. I still haven't quite cracked the code as far as speed work goes, but again, we've talked about it before. If I'm being honest, I get it's not lazy, but I definitely get avoidant when it comes to when you're late in that training block and you're already worn down.
Yeah.
Like the track feels like torture to me. So it's like, okay, I'll compromise, and it's like I can do, yeah, 4x800s usually is what I maybe 4x1000s if I'm really whatever, but I'll do that out at the park or something like that, where it's not ideal conditions, it's not track conditions, but like it's still something.
Dude, I hate the track. I don't use the
Hate the
track.
track. Hate
Hate
the
it.
track.
When I lived in Texas, I had a loop that was 800 meters. I think it was a half-mile loop. And it was on the road in the neighborhood. So that's what I would do my
Oh,
track
that's
for.
perfect. Yeah.
It was great for that. Like, so because I hate going to the track. I just
Hate it.
absolutely hated it. It was such a, like, the anxiety and the stress and the anger I would have going there. Like, the whole workout was thrown off before I even got there. So
I'm sure there's a better way of articulating it, but it feels to me like, have you ever been in a really claustrophobic situation? It's like, I just got to get out of here.
yeah,
When I'm on the track, I feel
yeah,
like I'm being claustrophobic. Like,
yeah.
obviously it's not the same thing. You're not trapped in, but you feel kind of trapped when you're on the track, huh?
It's why I program my watch with the workouts, because I can do them on the treadmill, I can do them on the roads and the streets and stuff like that. I don't have to be confined to the track to do it in. And maybe I'm just making myself feel better, but I've never run a race on a track. Like, the marathon I've run has never been on a track. The
Yeah,
Ironman
yeah.
I've done has never been on a track. The 100 miler I've done has never been on a track. So
No,
let me go on the road where you have undulating components, and um, that to me mimics the race far more than running on the track does. So, and again, maybe
absolutely.
I'm placating myself to make myself feel better, but that's definitely how I feel.
Whatever works though, right? I
Yeah,
mean, that's
true.
that's the whole thing. Because if you're forcing yourself to do something, it's like, no, this sucks.
Yeah.
Eventually you'll get to the point where it's like you just don't want to do it at all.
Yep.
So you got to find that happy medium for
I
sure.
will say this about speed work, and I probably should have answered it earlier, is strides are always a part of the workout during even outside of the speed work, right? So they're always be incorporated in there, because you're looking at 20 to 30 seconds of strides, and then taking a minute and a half in between, where you're not going top end, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
increasing your pace, you're building into it. And so that kind of will replicate, I guess, speed work when you're looking at those longer runs that are then become your training runs at the end of the blocks.
For sure. For sure. Yeah.
Cool. Well, dude, thanks so much for joining me again on Beyond the Training. I love this time. I look forward to having these conversations and sharing maybe it's wisdom, maybe it's not, with the rest of the world. And I will say this, our first episode was good in terms of views on YouTube. The second episode had a 50% increase. So if we're doing it right, we should still see that continued growth, and hopefully people are connecting with us and enjoying our journey through the Run Club tour and to this first stop at the Oakland Marathon.
Absolutely. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. Make sure you're following along with us. And if you do plan on running Oakland, make sure you get registered now. We're running out of time. But even if that's the case, maybe leave us a little comment. What are you doing as you're part of as you're training for Oakland?
Exactly. Appreciate you, Santino. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, talk to you then. Take it easy.